Let's go to the callers because I got a call for you that you're not going to believe. In the middle of all of this, I'm not kidding you, what's coming. Last Wednesday, a week ago this Wednesday, I did a personal show about Dr. Savage, personal advisor, remember? Whatever I called it. I don't know what I called myself. I answer personal questions that are bothering you. Because I'm an older guy, I've been experienced, and people have faith in me. They don't know who else to turn to. They don't want to pay for a therapist. Personal advisor. So people call this and that. I'm going to get married, have a baby. What should I do? One guy calls, and he says he has a French girlfriend who's crazy, driving him nuts. It was turned into one of the greatest phone calls in my radio career. People who never heard my show before were astounded by it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on the line is Greg from KSFO Radio in San Francisco, who is the boyfriend of the crazy French girl. Greg, thank you for calling again. Is that really you?
Was the boyfriend of the crazy French girl.
No. Was. Now, who ditched who?
The problem with it, Michael, everything you were saying when you and I talked last week was accurate. I mean, you wasn't telling me anything that I didn't know. But
of course.
It was the timing. And I had kind of gotten myself in a situation where I had made commitment. And when I made the commitment, I felt like I needed to follow through, and I couldn't get out of it. I had painted myself in a box. So for the past week, I figured out how to open that box up to get out of it. And what I did was I just backed up a little bit, and I qualified what my commitments was based upon. And when I...
But to the average listener who doesn't know you, Greg, it's important I add that she became pregnant, and she emailed you and said, I'm now pregnant while she was remaining in Paris. You were guilty and you wanted to raise the child, although you have an adult child from another marriage. You're a very traditional man and you didn't want to abandon the baby. And she said, I'm not coming to San Francisco. Is that correct so far?
That's correct.
So what did you say to her? Obviously you gave up on the baby.
Well, what I said to her was, she gave me the story about why she decided she wanted to stay there. And to be honest with you, Mike, after what I found out, she needs to stay there. So I, of course, stepped up and said, okay, well, how are we going to make this work? What is my role? How are we going to participate? This is what I would like to do. This is what I want to do. How are we going to make this work? And let's make it work, and I will help you even if you stay in France. Well, me saying that I will help you put me in a corner because then she took off with that and started running and making all these plans. And I'm saying, wait a minute. I said I would help you, but I didn't say I would fund you. I said that's a difference. So what happened?
But look, without going into every detail, Greg, is she keeping the baby? What's happening? And what did you find out about her that proved that she was a nightmare?
Well, I knew she was a night. I think probably the thing that made it worse was when that right hook came back in September. I remember the date, and then after that, of course, she's gotten worse and worse, and the doctor claims it has something to do with the hormonal effects and the pregnancy. And I told him that, you know what, it may have added to it a little bit, but this was going on, you know.
But what I didn't understand in our first phone call, Greg, we didn't know each other. You called, we started to talk. So I hear an American guy goes to France, falls in love with a French woman. She's nuts, half nuts, or 4/5 nuts, or whatever. And I said to you, well, was she good sex at least? And you said, no, that's the paradox. She was terrible in bed. Didn't you say that?
Yeah, and you're not the first person I told that. She was younger, and I even said, as a golly, I said, you know what, look at my luck. I end up getting hooked up with a young French girl, and for other reasons, and the reasons are not even there.
Yes, in other words, a lot of guys think it's all about sex, and in her case, it wasn't even there. So you were actually hooked on her, despite the fact that she was bad in bed.
Right. Mike, if you saw a picture of this girl, you would say, everybody who's met her, they say, now I see why.
All right, so assume she's an ingenue, she's beautiful, she's a young Yvette Mimieux or a Brigitte Bardot, whichever type that you would like to use from another period, because there was a typical French look that was typified by either Brigitte Bardot in the 50s or Yvette Mimieux in the 60s. I don't know which type she would be like. I would assume that's what we're talking about. On the petite side, is that what we're saying?
She's as tall as me. She's real slender. She's a dark hair, brown-eyed kind of, and she has a little color to her skin. So
I see that. So it's a totally different look than what I'm talking about. Okay, so she's a different type of beauty. But in any case, it's over. So who's raising the baby?
At this point, she's staying in France, and as far as I know, the baby's staying in France, and, I told her, against popular belief, it does not take a village to raise a child. It takes a mother and a father. I said, when a village gets involved, it's usually too late. I said, a village gets involved because there's a problem.
All right, but you know what's happening. The minute you said you're no longer interested, she'll be in San Francisco within a week.
No, she can't.
Why?
She can't. Because France has the kind of government that Obama is trying to start here. They have a socialist government, and you have to be where they tell you to be because they're the one that takes care of your medical bills. They're the one that tell you that you can go to work and we'll pay you. So she has to be where they tell her to be.
Oh, because she has such great benefits is what you're saying. She's not going to lose them by coming here.
Well, I don't know how great they are, but she has all benefits. I mean, France has a thing called the Security Sociale is what it's called. And it takes care of everything. That's why they pay a 70-something% tax rate over there. But she hasn't been to work since September. But she can't leave and go.
Well, look, France is a basket case. It's going to become the new Greece. There's no question that Hollande is going to destroy the country, which is why Depardieu is leaving. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Putin today extended citizenship to Gerard Depardieu, who has said he's moving to Belgium where there's lower tax rates and no estate taxes, so far as I know. And do you know Russia has a 13% flat tax? Did you know that, Greg?
No, I did not.
Can you believe that? That even hybrid communist Russia has a 13% flat tax rate. And here in America, Obama can't get enough on taxes. What does that tell you about this man? Did he miss something in his readings of Alinsky and Marx and Lenin and Engels? What did he miss? What is wrong with these people that they don't understand that if you tax people to death, they leave the country or stop producing?
Yeah. Michael, can I comment on one other thing off of this subject? And it's something that you were saying before you come to me, and I'm guilty of that. I listen to talk radio like you and the Hannitys and the Limbaughs and stuff. And when the election ended, I just kind of threw my hands up and said, what's the point? That was me. You were talking about me when you said it. I mean, I didn't go out and buy a gun. But just said, what's the point?
Well, so in other words, you felt let down by talk radio. You figured, what's the point of listening? It makes no difference. It's all hot air. That's what you felt, right or wrong?
I have to admit that you're right. That's how I felt.
All right, but now and again, I'm trying to put myself that I'm better and all of that. That's what we all do. But nevertheless, you still are listening to me. But what's the reason? Because of the topics are different? Is that it?
You know what? You're probably right. Because when I listen to you, it's like it's a refresh. It's like a rest. It's a stop. I get a chance to hear a whole lot of stuff. You're right. If I turn on the radio now and I hear Obama or Boehner or any of those clowns, I don't want to listen. I don't listen to Sean. I'm not listening to Rush. I'm listening to you. I look at the clock to make sure what time you come on. And that isn't anything that you talk about that I'm not interested in. I listen to all of it. It's all very, very entertaining. I laugh like hell at a lot of the stuff you say. One reason I do it because you said things that are so common sense and obvious, and it reminds me of the same way I feel about certain things, and just to hear somebody else say it. And it's not all politics. So
yes, and you know what you're saying is funny because sometimes truth, common sense rather, when it is expressed in a down-to-earth manner, it's almost shocking because you never hear it. It's like pornography today. Pornography is everywhere to the point where people don't even want to look at it anymore. The whole country's pornographic. And yet, if you talk common sense, it's a shock because you don't hear it anywhere. And yet, if you went back in time, not too far back in time, this is the way people used to think about things, Greg. And I think behind the scenes, inside their own ears, they think the same way. Greg, I don't know if I sent you a book last week, but I'm sending you something for entertainment. It's my Christmas book called Train Tracks Family Stories for the Holidays. I don't know where to go with the show right now. We can continue on the airplanes, the books, the guns, the cars, and I will get in a minute. The minute I come back, I'll do a little politics to satisfy that itch inside the audience. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.